The new rules, apparently by the Democrat Party, is that if you're down at halftime, we'll just swap out and put in somebody else. I mean, that's not how it works at the Super Bowl. It's not how it works at life. You get to halftime, and if you're trailing, then you just go and try to swap something out. But the concern here, and you're kind of getting this with the democracy aspect, 14 million Democrats voted for Joe Biden to be at the top of their ticket. And for them to just go and effectively invalidate all 14 million of these votes, to me, it really seems to be an affront to democracy. It almost seems to be an obstruction of an official proceeding. But Kamala Harris today, in her very brief remarks, really seems to be unburdened by what has been. There was no mention of her disastrous job as the border czar. I'm sure the families of Laken Riley, Rachel Morin, or Jocelyn Nungary would have something to say about the job that Kamala Harris did. There's nothing still about the 55 missing ISIS terrorists that are running around the United States. So Kamala Harris has been a disaster. She owns every single part of Joe Biden's record. In fact, that's why we're calling it the Harris-Biden administration.
Indeed. And the question is whether or not Biden himself is fit to run at this very moment. Okay, he won't seek re-election. We know Robert Hur called him an elderly man with a poor memory. But Kamala, as you just saw in your own campaign ad, said she was meeting with him, says, you know, he's in great health around the country. So who's telling the truth? Who's running the country? And she could have indeed invoked the 25th Amendment, Jason. So how big of a role in deception to America did she play in all of this, including with the media that was complicit? But she was right there front and center, no?
Kamala Harris absolutely was complicit in the entire thing. And I would also say that Dr. Kevin O'Connor, Joe Biden's doctor, who signed off on medical report after medical report, saying that he was in fantastic shape. I mean, everything short of leaping over small buildings in a single bound or stopping a speeding bullet. They made Joe Biden sound like he was a perfect physical specimen. But then we saw when President Trump knocked him out on that debate stage that Joe Biden is in serious cognitive decline. There's just not much there. And you're so right to focus on that point about who's actually running the country. I don't know if maybe it's Joe Biden, maybe it's Hunter. All of the options, quite frankly, scare me because our adversaries, these foreign threats, whether it be Putin, Xi, the Ayatollah, any of these rogue regimes or terrorist groups around the country, they're looking at us and they're licking their chops.
Yeah, and Kamala, when she opens her mouth, has had plenty of cringeworthy comments. I also want to call in, you know, her record now will be much more in focus as she is at the top of the ticket. We can't ignore the fact that, you know, she helped this Minnesota nonprofit that wanted to bail out the BLM. It did bail out BLM protesters. We have the tweet. That's there on the record. Her early rise. San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown wrote about the book, in his book, about them having an affair that really helped launch her career. I mean, Kamala's record, as you mentioned here, whether it be border czar or now she'll be pushing abortion, we know that. There's going to be a lot, I think, of speculation and introspection on, you know, who she is, how she got to where she is. And I know the left will want to say she's a woman and she's black and, you know, this and that for identity politics. But, Jason, this is a woman with a very interesting past that I think a lot of people have to look closer at. And, again, just going back to the fact that she's at the top of the ticket and not one primary voter wished her to be there.
Right. And even when you go back to 2019, Kamala Harris never even made it to the first votes being cast in the Iowa caucuses for the 2020 primary. She dropped out well in advance of that. But the reason why Kamala Harris's role as border czar is so important, because this border crisis that both Kamala Harris and Joe Biden launched led to the Biden migrant crime wave, which led to these horrific murders, these horrific tragedies. That opens up for taking a look at all of Kamala Harris's soft on crime positions from over the years. In particular, I would, as you pointed out, look at the Minnesota Freedom Fund, which bailed out this man who'd been arrested numerous times. Then only 3 weeks later, he goes and shoots a man at a light rail station, and this murderer is now serving the rest of his life behind bars. Kamala Harris went on her Twitter page and asked people to contribute to bail these people out. This isn't some like 1 or 2 or 3 steps removed. This is Kamala Harris. It's still up today on her Twitter page calling to raise money to bail these people out. She's been soft on crime, terrible on crime. Wait until we start going into the details about her time as Attorney General in the state of California. It's going to get even uglier.